Today is Monday, July 1st. What to know about President Trump's historic last-minute meeting with North Korea's leader. Plus, which state is now the sports betting capital of the country, the Army's plan for new tiny drones, and the top movie at the weekend box office. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in less than 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. President Trump is now the first sitting U.S. president to actually step foot in North Korea. It happened over the weekend in a last-minute meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. NBC News reports President Trump walked over the line in the demilitarized zone, which separates North and South Korea. He only took about 10 steps into the country with Kim at his side, but still, it's unprecedented. Then the two leaders talked for nearly an hour, where they then decided to restart nuclear talks. Remember, negotiations broke down back in February at a planned meeting between the two in Vietnam, and the leaders have not met face-to-face since. The U.S. wants North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons, but North Korea says the U.S. must first lift sanctions. So what happens now? Well, Trump says negotiating teams from both countries will begin work, quote, within weeks. President Trump says he was proud to step over the line into North Korea, and it was, quote, a great honor. That now, it's not about speed, but to get it right. He says he would even invite Kim to the White House. Critics aren't impressed, at least not yet. They say this meeting will only be historic if it actually leads to something, and that North Korea is not likely to give up its stockpile of nuclear weapons anytime soon. To be continued. Speaking of restarting talks, it seems trade negotiations are back on track between the U.S. and China. The New York Times reports that means any new tariffs the U.S. was planning on Chinese goods are on hold, at least for now. Before President Trump met with North Korea's leader, he met with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the G20 summit in Japan over the weekend. That's when leaders of 19 countries and the European Union get together to talk about a variety of issues. Remember, trade talks between the U.S. and China had stalled several weeks ago. The countries put tariffs on each other's goods, and President Trump had planned for even more. But now he's holding off on any new levies to see if the two countries can work things out. President Trump also lifted his ban on Huawei, a major Chinese tech company. Even though this is a sign of progress, Reuters reports there's no guarantee at this point that the two countries will reach an agreement. Another massive protest is happening in Hong Kong today. The Guardian reports protesters are blocking streets and riot police are using tear gas and batons. It comes on a day that marks the 22nd anniversary of Hong Kong's return to Chinese control from Britain. It's an annual day of pro-democracy protests. But this year, it's also the fourth big protest there in a month. And that's still because of a controversial bill. Remember, the extradition bill would basically mean people accused of crimes could be transferred to mainland China to stand trial. Hong Kong has its own political and legal systems, but it is still a territory in China. For now, the government postponed the extradition bill, but protesters still want leaders to formally withdraw it and for Hong Kong's leader to step down. She's promised to be more open. The U.S. Attorney General William Barr just declared the first-of-its-kind public safety emergency in Alaska. He sent $10 million to help support law enforcement in mostly rural areas. Barr said, quote, lives depend on it. The reason? Alaska has the highest per capita crime rate in the country. And it's violent crime. USA Today reports more than half the women in the state say they've experienced domestic violence or sexual abuse. Children are targeted too. So the emergency declaration is meant to provide federal support. Most of the money going to Alaska is for hiring new law enforcement officers and for training and equipment. And the FBI was told to submit a plan on how it can help out too. When it comes to sports betting, New Jersey is all in. New state numbers from the month of May show New Jersey is actually seeing more money in bets than Nevada for the first time in history. It comes after a landmark ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court last year that basically opened up sports betting as an option to all states. Before that, commercial sports betting was essentially banned except for in Nevada. Think Las Vegas. State officials in New Jersey are now excited, saying the state is on its way to, quote, becoming the Las Vegas of the East Coast, at least when it comes to sports betting. But that doesn't mean Nevada is not doing well itself. It's expected to have a record-breaking year for bets. All right, much more news ahead, but first, I'm excited to share a new sponsor with you today, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of amazing classes covering dozens of creative and entrepreneurial skills. You can take online classes in everything from photography and creative writing to design, productivity, and more. So whether you're returning to a longtime passion project or challenging yourself to get outside your comfort zone and try something new, Skillshare has classes for you. As a journalist, I believe it is so important to always be curious and to never stop learning. And Skillshare is a great, convenient way to do that. Or help improve your skills at something you're already so passionate about. I have Skillshare videos on my playlist to continue learning about running a business and managing a team. So join millions of other students learning on Skillshare. And listen up, because the Newsworthy listeners get a special offer. You can get 2 months free. Yep, Skillshare is offering the Newsworthy listeners 2 months of unlimited access to thousands of classes for free. So to sign up, go to Skillshare.com/newsworthy. Again, Skillshare.com/newsworthy, and start your 2 months now. Skillshare.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. For the first time ever, Major League Baseball went to Europe to introduce the sport to the UK market. The New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox played a 2-game series in London over the weekend. USA Today reports over the course of 2 games, there were 30 runs scored and 16 pitchers used, with one game lasting nearly 5 hours, which is close to the longest 9-inning game in history. The Yankees ended up winning both games. Also in sports, the U.S. women's soccer team is moving on in the World Cup. The team beat France on Friday, and now they'll play England in the semifinals tomorrow. As for the NBA, the annual free agency period is officially underway. CBS Sports reports players won't be able to sign contracts with teams until next week, but they can still agree to deals. And star player Kevin Durant did not waste any time on that. He's apparently leaving the Golden State Warriors for the Brooklyn Nets in a $164 million deal. The Nets want him, by the way, even though he's out with an Achilles injury, meaning you probably won't see him play next season at all. The U.S. Army will start giving some troops tiny, pocket-sized drones to use in the field. The Verge says some troops will begin using them as soon as next month in Afghanistan. They're designed to scout nearby terrain from above and look for enemy soldiers. But the Army is still trying to figure out the best way to use them. The drones are about 6 inches long and weigh 33 grams. They have cameras on them and can send back live video and pictures to the operators. The technology is being tested now, but the Army says personal drones will eventually become the standard. Apple is now selling a diabetes monitor in some of its stores called One Drop. CNBC reports it's a device that connects to iPhones to help diabetics monitor their blood sugar with Apple's Health app. One Drop's kit comes with a blood glucose meter to take the readings and a mobile app that collects the data and links it to the Health app. It's not actually made by Apple, but it's the only diabetes product the company is selling in its own stores. And it's no surprise, really. Apple has been looking to get more into the healthcare space and make the iPhone a hub for personal health. CNET says Apple is reportedly working on a glucose monitor of its own for the Apple Watch. A patent application says it could, quote, smell blood sugar. We'll see. For the second weekend in a row now, Toy Story 4 topped the box office charts. Variety says it brought in another $58 million. Now, after 2 weekends in theaters, Toy Story 4 is the 4th highest-grossing movie of the year. It sits behind Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel, and Aladdin. Second place at the box office this weekend was Annabelle Comes Home, a horror movie. And in close third was Yesterday, a movie about a man who finds out he's the only one who remembers the Beatles. And that's it. You are all caught up from the weekend. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can read more about any news story that caught your attention. I've included sources and links in today's show notes. You'll find them in your podcast app or over on thenewsworthy.com. From the homepage, just click episodes, then look for today's date. The Newsworthy is ready for you to listen every weekday by 4 in the morning. I'll be back with more news tomorrow. Have a great day.